All of us are subject to leaders, and most of us think we could do a better job than the current leader. The question is, what do you do with that thought? You probably have some great ideas, and you might be right that you could do a great job or maybe a better job. But the question is, what do you do with that? Let's take a look at what Joab and Absalom did with those thoughts. In 2 Samuel 14 and 15, Joab sees the king, David. He's separated from his son, and he says, "This is killing him. I need to do something about it." So he hires a woman to pretend she's a widow. And she goes before the king. Anytime a person wasn't getting justice with a judge, you could just go before the king. It was a pretty cool system. And she says, "I'm a widow. I have two sons. One son killed the other son. And, now this one that did the murder was an accident. I'm hiding him. And the state wants him, and they're going to kill him. What do we do?" And King David says, "He's innocent. He's forgiven. Done." That wasn't really justice. In personal matters, you should be liberal with forgiveness, but the state can't do that. She says, "That's exactly what happened with Absalom. You shouldn't have him, banished from the kingdom anymore." And he says, "Did Joab put you up to this?" And she says, "Yeah." He says, "Okay, Joab, you can bring Absalom back." After 3 years, he comes back. But he won't talk to Absalom. So, Joab does something that's very divisive, and, he thought he had a good motive, but it's kind of divisive. He shouldn't have done that. Well, Absalom comes back, and David won't talk to Absalom for 2 years. And Absalom's getting more and more bitter at his father because he didn't deal with the situation with Amnon and raping Tamar, and now this. And so he burns Joab's field to get David's attention. I mean, the guy who actually had helped get him back. And it worked. He got a meeting with the king, and he literally goes before the king, and he bows down, but he doesn't confess his sin of murdering his brother. He doesn't confess anything, and David doesn't make him. David doesn't even bring it up. He just says, "Well, you're back." So this allowed Absalom back into the kingdom. And so every day, Absalom would go into the gate of the city. This is where judgment actually happened, where the judges would sit. He'd get there early, and he'd find people who were troubled, and he'd say, "Well, unfortunately, there's no judge here to help you. Oh, if I were the king, I would be here, and I would give you justice." Very, very divisive. He was an exciting figure. He rode in a chariot, and he had 50 men running in front of him. I mean, just all for show. I mean, if you get 50 men going in front of you, your chariot's not going very fast, right? He would look for troubled people who had heartbreak, and he would sympathize with them. He would show a personal interest in them. He would bow down to them, make them feel important. He was a political genius, but he was dividing. He was trying to take the kingdom from his father, and he never spoke directly against his father. He didn't have to. He just said, "I would do a better job." And he left people more troubled than when they came to him. They were troubled with the state of the kingdom, and he did that on purpose. And so one day he says to his dad, "Hey, I want to go to Hebron to worship." And he goes to Hebron with 200 men, and they make him king. And a lot of these men didn't even know the plot, but they remained silent. And so David has to flee again, just like when he was running from Saul. Now he's fleeing from his own son. You may have great intentions, but you may think that your husband or your boss or your whoever doesn't know what they're doing. And so you divide, you subvert. God hates that. You may think, "Well, I have the best intentions and they just don't understand and I need to do this." You're sinning against God. And even Joab, who says, "I want to bring these guys together," brought Absalom back into the kingdom, which would be the end of his life. And break David's heart and break the kingdom. Even David was not disloyal to Saul, who was trying to kill him. When God sets up leaders, God knows what he's doing. God can take the leader down, and does. Believe me, he does. But it isn't your job to do that. We got to take a close look at how we all of us are under authority. How do you respect that authority? Do you just slowly break away the bottom of their feet? Because if you do, this story ends. And these two guys, they don't end up very well, Joab and Absalom. We'll keep reading on. Watch out for how you handle authority. Even though you may have some good ideas, you may be able to do a better job. Wait till God puts you in that spot to do a better job. God bless you guys. Have a great day.